game. And the worst one from the night, the Clippers absolutely blow the doors off of Denver 117-83. They did it behind a 23-2 run at the end of the first. Denver actually had a good first 7 minutes or so of this game where they were getting some good cuts, some good movement. They weren't getting a ton of stops, but they did have like a 6-point lead early, and then a 23-2 haymaker. And Legs, I'm going to kind of lead you in on this because, obviously this is the game I'm locked into, and this is the team I cover closest. They did this. The Clippers did this in game 2 as well, where they brought Zubac out at the end of the first quarter and then bring him in at the second quarter because Denver's rhythm is to play Yoke the whole first quarter and then to sit him. And they're making the gamble that Denver cannot beat them at the end of those minutes when Ben Simmons is guarding Jokic. They're a little bit smaller, a little switchy. Denver brings in their bench players. They lose some of their shooting, bringing in Peyton Watson and Jalen Pickett, Russell Westbrook. So they're saying we can pack the paint against Jokic in those minutes and then bring Zubac, a big-bodied in against Denver, Aaron Gordon at center. We can do that. And it worked because Denver really fell apart at the end of the first quarter. And in the start of the second quarter, it was just an enormous Clippers run and a Clippers haymaker. And Denver didn't recover at all. So we have a lot to talk about. But that first part of it, to me, the 23-2 run was really what happened in this game. Everything else just played out after that. But what did you see?
Yeah, I mean, that's the game in a nutshell. That's where it pretty much ended right there. And one of the problems for Denver, as we know, as we've talked about, they shoot a good percentage. They don't take enough threes or make enough threes or have enough firepower from the three-point line. You fall down 15, 20 points. That's going to be really, really difficult. They're minus 33 from the three-point line in this game to the Clippers. Right? I mean, how are you supposed to recover from that? So when you fall behind, and on the road even harder, when you fall behind and you're going to not chip away by stringing together a few threes at some point, makes it really, really difficult. I thought their three-point shooting was exposed in this game. I thought some other major factors in this game. Michael Porter Jr. clearly is ineffective with this shoulder injury. He was not himself. It's a lot of things he's not going to be able to do on the court with that particular injury. It was obviously bothering him. And I saw frustration on the part of Jokic, I think, that, he was out there and he wasn't a complete player, and that was going to make it really tough on them. Russell Westbrook now dealing with something physically. He only played, 9 minutes in this game, I believe?
Yeah, he
9
got hurt
minutes.
in the second quarter, didn't return.
And he's been critical for this team down the stretch and even through the first couple of games as well as he's played. Denver's in a really tough spot right now going into down 2-1, game 4 on the road, and potentially even more shorthanded. So my first question for you is, what's going on with Porter and Westbrook? What do you expect? You're there. What are they saying? What do you think is going to happen here going forward with their rotation?
So Michael Porter had that injury at the end of game 2, kind of that terrible mistake, and then goes down, isn't able to get up. And it really was the moment of game 2 that flipped the game. He comes back and tries to play this one, and I think a valiant effort, playing through injury, but he was not himself. So 2 of 9 from the field. He was a minus 25 in the game. But he said after the game, I was not helping my team. I was hurting it. And I don't know if I should even try to play. I want to help my team, but helping my team in game 4 might be not playing. And he might be right. The problem, Legs, is they have 2 shooters in their entire rotation, Michael Porter and Jamal Murray. They already struggle. When I talk about the Clippers' defensive game plan is, hey, we can afford to sit Zubac and to sit Kawhi at the end of the first quarter because Denver has to bring in a non-shooting lineup, and that's just easy to guard even if you're compromised. Well, now you take out Michael Porter. You don't have to wait for that stint. That's going to be the entire game. Denver will not have more than one shooter on the court at any given moment. So losing him, even though he was completely ineffective in this game, is huge. And then Russell Westbrook, he obviously is a hot or cold, help you or hurt you guy. You kind of flip a coin every night, but at least he's in the rotation as their 6th man. If you lose Porter and you lose Russell Westbrook, Denver's depth was their problem. Peyton Watson is likely starting in this game. By the way, he was really rough, really terrible last night as well, but he's probably starting. And your first man off the bench is Jalen Pickett, who's only been playing for about 20 games total. That would be Denver's 5th and 6th guy in game 4 if it comes to it. So I think it's definitely DEFCON 1 if you're Denver.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, you don't put anything past Nikola Jokic and what the guy's capable of, but if you're that shorthanded where Michael Porter Jr., potentially doesn't play, or now the Clippers know that that's going through his head and he's so limited, you can guard him differently. Westbrook, if he's hobbled and limited, it's already, the shooting's already a problem. You're going to make sure you're not giving him anything easy. you don't put anything past Jokic, but at the same time, you just look at what's available against this level defense and what you're going to have to do to relieve some pressure off of him. I think it's going to be really tough for Denver. Look, I liked the Clippers going into the series regardless, like both teams fully healthy. I thought it was going to be, and I said it to you the other day, I thought we were going to get 6 or 7 games that were decided in the last 6 minutes. I really did. I thought they was going to be that even. This one surprised me a little bit, and I don't know why it would be, because there's been a number of blowouts in the playoffs so far. A lot of games are not close in the fourth quarter. This was another one. So right now, I think it's just a matter of let's see who's available for Denver. And you're going to need probably an absolute epic game out of Jokic, like max aggressiveness as a scorer in game 4. You might have to see Jokic take 25, 30 shots. And listen, if you go full commit, if you're the Clippers, on blitzing him and getting the ball out of his hand at all costs, that's going to be tough to do. If they do that, is there enough offense support around him to give yourself a chance to win? But I think Jokic understands the moment. You're going to see him know that he's got to dial up a 40-point game in game 4, potentially for them to steal this and get an opportunity to get home court back.
I think you're right that the game 4 is the game he's going to have to be inefficient, but just try to force his way through, because he's been efficient so far. 9 of 14 in this game, 23, 13, and 13. But to your point, it wasn't effective. It's not putting pressure on them in large part because they know the 14 field goal attempts, that's the number. The assists and everything else, he got 7 of them or 8 of them in the first quarter. So that's only 5 the rest of the way. And they were able to just dare guys to shoot and shut off the cutting lanes. What I worry about with Denver is this: 2 things. One, we talked about there not being a blowout in the series, or potentially not, because of the low 3-point shooting. Denver made the strategic decision to try to shut down Kawhi Leonard and James Harden. 6 of 14 from Harden, 20 points. That's on paper a bad game for him. Kawhi Leonard, 7 of 17, 21 points on paper. That's a bad game, but it came at a cost, and that cost was open shots for the other guys. Maybe you're hoping they miss. They shoot 46%. And everybody got off in this game. All of the guys were shooting. Norman Powell had 3. Chris Dunn had 2. Batum had 4, who, by the way, is having a phenomenal series. Derek Jones goes 2 of 3. So Denver made that decision, and I think they're going to have to go back. I would bet, if I were a betting man, I would bet on Kawhi points over and Harden points over in game 4, because I think Denver's going to say, we can't double cover and let other guys go. We have to live with the volume scoring from those guys and hope we can turn this game back into a slog.
Well, I agree. I think that was clearly, more successful formula in Denver. And I think you're probably right. They're going to go back to that. How many tough mid-range shots can you make, Kawhi? You're going to have to make a lot, because we're not going to sit there and overcommit and give guys clean looks. So I do think that's, got to be part of their defensive strategy going forward. Look, they had 80 points amongst their best 4 players. They had a great balance amongst their starters, right? All 4 of their top guys played well in this game. And with the emergence of Kawhi Leonard here, these last couple of months, you look at their starting lineup and you're going, it's practically as good as anybody's in the league. Kawhi Leonard, Harden, the year Norman Powell's had, plus Zubac. Kawhi has kind of changed the entire dynamic and way that we view this team. I think you're right. I think you're going to have to force Kawhi Leonard and James Harden, and they're probably capable of it. Don't get me wrong. They easily could get a 60-point combined game in game 4. They're capable, but I don't think you can make the game as easy for their supporting cast as it looked last night.
Yeah, that's 100% it. The last note here for Denver, they make the coaching change with 3 games to go, and they get a jolt, as everybody does, or not everybody, but most teams do. You make the coaching change, there's an emotional coming together. Denver did not build in the muscles that they needed all year to be on a string defensively and to do different things. And I think once that high wears off, where you're just flying around and making plays, it becomes about execution. And Denver adjusting their defensive scheme in game 3, saying, okay, we're going to trap, but we're going to have to rotate more. The rotations were not there. They just were not prepared, because all year they had not been building towards this moment where they know how to defend different styles. So their rotations were horrible in this game. They're giving up open threes that they shouldn't have given. But here's the thing, Legs. I talked after game 1 about how the Nuggets showed me a toughness I had not seen all year. And that was part of it. I thought in game 2 they showed a toughness. It wasn't pretty, but it was tough. This one, they got hit with that 23-2 run. The game was over. And Denver looked like the game was over. And to be honest with you, the Clippers almost had mercy. Rather than run up the score on them, they just ran the clock out for an entire half. The third and fourth quarter was unwatchable because the Clippers walked the ball up, played with it for 20 seconds and then scored. And so Denver just didn't have fight in that second half in a way that to me that's what's more concerning than anything is Denver. We knew they were behind the 8 ball in terms of talent and connection, execution, those types of things. But in this game, they kind of let go of the rope in the second half in a way that I thought, I don't think Denver has any more belief in themselves.
Well, I don't know if it's gone completely. They lost it last night. I don't know if it's gone completely going into game 4 or 4. Look, it's 2-1. You got to win a road game. That's what it comes down to now. And I think the key for me is you can't let them get beyond arm's length in the first half of the game. You just can't, because you do not have the 3-point capacity to make up those kind of deficits. If this game is played the way the first 2 games were in Denver, I think Denver's got a great shot. You go into the fourth quarter and you're in a 1-possession game and you've got Jokic and you've got like some of that experience that those guys can draw on from being in those spots in the past. I think Denver is going to have a great shot to win the game. You can't let them come out and get into that comfort zone and get a double-digit lead on you in the first half, because you become far too predictable offensively and you don't have the personnel to cut into that kind of lead. So that's what I'm looking for Denver. I think they're going to fight, man. They're going to come out, they're going to fight, they're going to throw punches early in the game. I really believe that. This is a championship team with a 3-time MVP on it. I don't think you're going to see them accept their fate if it doesn't go well at the beginning of the game. They're going to fight. The question is, do they have enough? I agree. Yeah. Clippers are a really good team. They've got a lot of talent, and they're playing great. So it's not going to be easy, but Denver has shown you like what they can do if the game stays tight, what Denver's capable of with their execution around Jokic to give them a great chance to win. That's the key. Stay in the game. You'll have a shot to win it in the fourth quarter, because I think they can execute well around Jokic.
And I think you're right. They definitely quit in this game, but it doesn't mean that they won't have it in game 4. It'll be a real gut check time for them, because they are so limited, and you just want to see a team, even if it's not promising, you want to see them fight to the bitter end. They didn't do that in the second half of game 3, but game 4 is another opportunity. All right, let's go to...
Hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục làm tầng thứ 2 của cây thông nhé.
Nào các biết tính trừ nên con mới biết thế thôi, không được lớp nghĩ một tí thôi là đã được. Cố gắng lên.